Client of mine asked me this very simple question. Do you think I'm tired or that I'm burning out? And I realized that I've been asked this question over and over again over the last decade. People are not looking for a label per se, but fundamentally, they are asking a very simple question. It is something that will pass, or I'm starting to get broken. This is one of the most crucial questions, is whether or not what I'm feeling is a sign that I'm starting to burn out or just a normal fluctuation. And that's what I want to share with you. What is the 3-step process that I take with my clients to try to answer this question and try to navigate whether or not someone is just tired or actually burning out. But before I get into it, I need to get you a little bit of perspective. I'm a medical doctor, and I've been working with founders and executives to help them overcome burnout and improve their health and performance for more than a decade now. And through this process, through this journey, through the working with these incredible individuals, I've come to the conclusion that burnout is not a mental health issue. Burnout is what happens when you use more of your system's battery than you recharge. If you use a cell phone more than you recharge, eventually, and it is a certainty, you will run out of battery. And when you do, there's nothing wrong with the cell phone. It just doesn't have battery, it just needs to recharge. And that's exactly what happens with our system. When we push more than we recharge, eventually we will run out of juice. So ultimately, a burnout is a balance between the load and the pressure and the strain we put in our body and our ability to recover from it. That's as simple as it can be. Again, not a mental health issue, but a real metabolic, physiological one. So when I'm asked this, am I tired or I'm broken? The first thing is try to understand what is the balance between load and recover. And to do it, we look into data, actual objective data from 3 different sources that help me understand where they are. The first source of data is from wearables. I've been using wearables for 6+ years. I always look into 2 markers, heart rate variability and resting heart rate, because these 2 will tell me either in a short term but long term as well, whether or not our system is recharging or being depleted. A few years ago, Harvard published an article saying that heart rate variability works as some sort of barometer of how much we are under stress. It is just not only physiological, but also it will be influenced by our emotions, by our mental state, by our environment. It's super sensitive. Technically, the higher HRV you have, the more recovered you are. When the balance between load and recover starts to be chronically imbalanced, and you start putting much more load into your system than what you're recovering for, HRV will go down. And usually resting heart rate will go up. Resting heart rate, especially measured during sleep, is also a very good indicator of how much inflammation and how much stress you have in your system. So having a wearable that tells us whether or not you are overstretching and under-recovering is quite important. And it was even a pilot study published in 2020 in a high-tech company in Taiwan that showed that changes in HRV was a good indicator for burnout and allowed people to flag burnout earlier and act almost preventively. This works like a window into our daily physiology. The second level of data that I always want to have is a broad and comprehensive panel of blood and urine analysis. Those that you can do anywhere, but within all the markers that we can study, there are a few areas that are so important to try to understand if you are overtaxing or not. Particularly, what is your inflammation status? Measuring things like C-reactive protein, sedimentation rate, IL-6, looking into CBC, and seeing the panel of your white blood cells and ratios between neutrophils and lymphocytes. Vitamin D as well. This will tell us, is your body fighting something? Is a chronic level of damage going on that we need to address? Because that will mean literally that you are having strain in our system. Where is it coming from? Will be a bigger question to ask. But if the markers are not ideal, then it means that you are under load. The second area that I look into the blood analysis will be metabolic health, specifically the balance in sugar, HbA1c, insulin, fasting glucose. Those are just critical. But also your thyroid as well, TSH, T3, T4, and even autoantibodies against your thyroid. Because that will tell me metabolically if there's any reason to have lower levels of energy. If your sugar is up and down, if you have high glycemic variability, even if your levels are good, there's a source of load. If your thyroid is not ideal, it may mean that your system is either protecting itself or just not functioning that well. And the third area that I look into the blood analysis is to try to understand your nutritional status and how much raw materials you have in your body. Things like B3, B6, B9, B12, vitamin C, homocysteine. These are very critical to understand how much fuel and raw materials you still have. Magnesium is also critical, and we can see it in the red blood cell, not just in the blood. These are the main things that I look into the blood analysis, because then we go into the third layer of testing, which is the precision medicine testing, specifically hormonal and metabolic. In hormonal, I look specifically into cortisol, because if you are about to burn out, there are clear patterns that we can see in your saliva cortisol. Your cortisol awakening response will get lower. Instead of having the expected 50% increase from waking up to 30 minutes later, maybe you have just 10%. And then cortisol may not drop throughout the day, and it may be an explanation why you're getting tired, because your cortisol level is higher throughout the night and you're not resting. That is one reason. And if that's happening, if you're not resting, having too much load, you may not be getting just tired. You may just starting to feel the burnout creeping in. But also in urine, we can also check or have an idea on how well your brain and your cells are functioning. There are key markers that we can measure in urine that will tell us whether or not your dopamine levels are okay and you still have motivation. Neurologically speaking, you are not lowering on dopamine, and therefore the ability to feel the drive to keep on going is neurological or just contextual, if you want. But also, if your mitochondria, the factories that turn food into energy, how are they working? Are they damaged? They have the cofactors that they need, all the cycles and all the supply chain working, because that will educate much better in much more detail the answer to the question whether it's just tiredness or burning out. So taking a step back, with all these markers that we assess, we have an idea on how much damage, how much under-recovered, how much strain you have in your system. And if HRV is low, if your sugar is all over the place, if your nutritional level is low, if your cortisol rhythm is off, that will tell me that that feeling that you have, that tiredness, may not just be tiredness. Maybe you're just about to enter a deeper phase into a burnout that we need to act in a more strategic and intense way even. But if everything is fine, it should tell us that it's probably tiredness. Which then leads me to the second question that I asked, or the second area that I want to assess, which is context. Specifically, what has been happening before the feelings of tiredness? Imagine that you are running a marathon. You have been training for 20 weeks at least. You have putting in the reps. You have recovered. Your system is good. Nothing to worry about. You will get tired after you finish the marathon. You will really get tired. But it doesn't mean that you're burning out. You're tired because it's just what happens after a peak, right? You build up, you train, you on that day, so much effort, you put everything on the line to try to achieve the goal that you're after, and then you get tired, you just need time to rest. That is not a burnout. That is just the consequence of the context of what happened. I've listened to people that I work with having that tiredness after noticing that a lot of the exec team left, or after raising a very hard round, even after a significant family issue, even a positive one. That is something that will mess up the balances. And then you will need to rest, not because you're burning out, but because you are tired from the context. When that happens, you'll feel tired. But that's why it's important to have the data, because the same feelings, the same symptoms with different sets of data will mean different things. The same feelings. If you don't have any metabolic load or you don't have any massive imbalance, just probably tiredness. But if you do have it, then we may be about to burn out. So we need to address it. And then we have the third layer. The third layer is the most complex, the most interesting, and the bigger lever we can pull. It's around your mind. You can have perfect data, your system working perfectly. You can even have an optimized context. But if you start to get uncleared on why you're doing what you're doing, if you don't have your eyes very clear on the goal, if you feel maybe it's not right for me, maybe I should be doing a different thing, if that doesn't get clear, then a deep tiredness will implement. And I've seen it. Perfect data. No sign of significant load, very great context, but also difficulty in get going, some sort of procrastination, some sort of negativity. That always brings me to the power of the mind, of our body. And this is like a very interesting cycle. There's this book that I have been recommending a lot, How Bad You Want by Matt Fitzgerald, that explores this balance between mind and body. One of the key arguments is the limiting factor in performance is never the level of effort, but the level of perceived effort. It's not what you do, but actually how hard or how difficult or how great reasons to do something that will determine whether or not you keep on going. And actually, even if you start on this journey, everything that we feel is information that we feed our brain that then will educate the level of perceived effort. But ultimately, it is our mind that will determine if we should keep going or not. And when you realize the impact that mind has, and you start tapping into the question, do I really want to keep doing it? Do I really want to keep on going? What is the end goal? Am I living that life that I want? Am I doing what I want? When you are able to tap into that question, then everything makes sense. The whole system starts to wake up. This is the only way, combination of these three factors is the only way to really know if you're just tired or if you're about to burn out. To get information that tell us how is your system working, is having understanding on your context, on the most simple details that may be overlooked, but can give us important clues about what has been happening. And fundamentally, do you know what you're after? And is there anything that we can do to make it clear? Knowing all this, then the answer will be quite clear, and the journey and the process will just present itself. So if you've been feeling kind of off, low motivation, low energy, sleeping not that well, if you've been to your doctor, unusual analysis and say that everything is normal, but you feel that something is quite off, maybe you just need to go a little bit deeper and broader. If this way of work sounds interesting to you, apply to one of our programs at primehumanperformance.com/founder-program. Maybe we can help you answer this question. If you're just tired and something that will pass, or something is about to break. Thank you so much for being here, and I hope to see you in the next one.